Thank you very much, Meesh. Rabbi Tzvi Hirschfield, instructor of Talmud at Pardes.
Yasher koach Meesh. A lot of pressure going after Meesh. Just as an aside, there's a tremendous proof for vegetarianism here in this Rambam. He says that lechem and basar are to know about the asur and the mutar. So obviously the basar is asur, and the lechem is mutar. How many people just heard that? I'll have to find out from Joel later. I was just kidding about the Rambam, not about vegetarianism. Okay. Deeper and deeper. Okay. The thing I'd like to focus on is, and Meesh alluded to it in her fine presentation, unlike the Bavli, the Tosefta adds on this piece that Rabbi Akiva went up in peace and came down in peace. And it occurred to me from that one little sentence that one way to help understand the story and what happened to these, really the greatest rabbis of their generation in many ways, which makes, I think, the story all the more surprising that 3 out of the 4. It's not 3 out of the 4 in some random sampling of the 2nd century Jewish community in Eretz Yisrael, but rather 4 of the leading lights of their generation in terms of piety and knowledge of Torah. That only Rabbi Akiva went in peace. And it got me to think a little bit about what we know about these other Rabbanim. And I collected, for those who have the source sheet, and we're not going to read through it, obviously, because of time, but some other sources about some of these other Rabbanim may give us a clue as to what's happening for them before they have this experience of the Pardes. Whatever it is, either a deep intellectual experience of Torah, a mystical experience, whatever it is, who are they before they go in? Elisha ben Abuya, it's taught both in Chagiga and Kiddushin that Elisha ben Abuya had an issue that troubled him greatly. And that was the issue of evil in the world. And I imagine it's not only him. It's quoted there in a context, we're interested enough, it's his grandson who explains that everywhere where the Torah says there's a reward of long life, that's the world to come. And that answer is essential for us to sort of live with Torah. How can we live with the Torah's promises when we see all around us day to day the problem of tzaddik v'ralo, that a righteous person suffers in this world? So Rabbi Yaakov comes and says, because it's not talking about this world, it's talking about the next world. And if only his grandfather had that answer. Because the Gemara goes on to explain why does Elisha ben Abuya leave traditional Jewish life? Because he is so troubled by evil. One example is he witnesses a boy who is going up to fulfill the mitzvah of releasing the mother before taking the egg, and his father told him to do it. Both commandments are built with promises of long life, and he falls off a ladder and dies. Another gives the example that he witnessed the death or the execution of Chutzpit, the Meturgaman. And that also, how could such a great Torah scholar come to such a terrible end? Even the story about the heretical books that would fall off of his lap. If we think of those heretical books not as Greek philosophy per se, but as Gnosticism, right? Gnosticism was built, and by the way, Christianity and Judaism have to deal with the challenge of Gnosticism, as a way to answer evil. Evil is understandable if we believe that there's really this upper God who's the good God and is all good, and there's a lower God that's in charge of our world, and he's the one that allows for evil. So I think the reason Elisha ben Abuya, is affected the way he does and he acts out angrily in the Pardes is because he goes into the Pardes angry. He's already angry. He's angry with God about the problem of evil. And when he has his intense encounter with God, what comes out of him is more anger. Ben Zoma, we are told, was sitting on Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, and his teacher, his venerated teacher, approaches. He doesn't even see him. Why? Because he is busy contemplating, and here maybe we have a Maaseh Breshit, right? A creation, the mysteries of creation. And he says the difference between God's reality or the divine realm and the human is only 3 fingers wide. He is already on a path, I would argue, of seeing sort of the hidden mystical reality and the day-to-day physical reality is coming together and merging. He's already there. And his Rebbe even says to him, you're not where you're supposed to be, you're outside. Because you're thinking of the first day of creation. The second day of creation, a wider division is made. Which I even understand metaphorically, these worlds are not meant to blend together. We have to maintain a distinction between the esoteric reality and the physical reality. And so, of course, when Ben Zoma goes into the Pardes and he has this intense experience, we're not surprised to come out. I would interpret he no longer sees reality as we're supposed to see it. Maybe he's even seeing a deeper reality, I don't know. But he's not experiencing the same reality that we experience every day of the human physical realm and the divine realm being separate. Ben Azai is famous, in addition for this story and many other statements, for never getting married. In Masechet Yevamot, in fact, he's even quoted as saying, if you don't have children, you are not only liable almost as a murderer, but you are diminishing God's image in the world, because human beings are built in the divine image. And people naturally respond to him, and I'll paraphrase, you talk a good talk, but you don't walk the walk, right? Nice teaching, but you don't practice what you preach. And his answer is basically, I can't help it. My soul's in love with Torah. And here I think is a fascinating idea that Ben Azai, for him to be in love with Torah means the exclusion of everything else. Where I would argue for him the intellectual, spiritual pursuit of Torah has made living in the physical reality, the day-to-day, the human, impossible for him. So again, I'm not surprised that when he has this intense moment in the Pardes, he dies. Because he is already not finding value in the physical life, in creating human life. He only wants Torah in its pure, removed sense. Finally, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, among many other things, has a very fascinating opinion when it comes to embarrassing another person. Unlike the rabbis who argue with him, he believes in the absolute value of human dignity across the board. Everybody gets the same amount of 400 zuz as a payment for being publicly humiliated. We don't care what your social standing is. Here, I think, is the secret to Rabbi Akiva's shlemut. He finds God in the physical, day-to-day human reality. And I think that if he finds infinite meaning in other people, he can go into the Pardes and have this intense, overwhelming experience, but still come back b'shalom. Because he's not looking to escape or leave the world he is in. He's, I think, I would argue, simply trying to find more and more of God's presence wherever he looks. My takeaway from this, how am I doing on time? Am I over time? Okay. My takeaway of this, I think, is twofold. First of all, unlike what we commonly believe, powerful religious experiences do not make us into somebody else, but rather they make us into more of what we already are. These rabbis came out the way they came out, I would argue, because of how they came in. And the second thing, which might even be even tougher, is that learning Torah is not a cure. Or more broadly, powerful mystical experiences are not a guarantee that your life is not going to be perfect from here on in. Now, what does this mean for us in our Pardes? I think, number one, consistent with our model of teaching, we're not here to learn Torah to stop being who we are. Our Torah is meant to help us discover more of who we are. And there's a danger in that, because we're all different. And the Torah that we learn together is understood differently by different people. We have different issues. We have different questions. And if we're learning Torah authentically, it's all going to come out. So if you want to learn Torah in this Pardes, you got to be prepared also to learn about who you are. The second thing is, we're not here, and none of us, I think, who have learned here believe we are offering simple solutions to how we should live or what life is all about. Torah study, spirituality are not simple answers to what should I do with my life. I'd say to the contrary, they make our lives often that much more complicated. They raise difficult questions. They challenge us to think about who we are and how we want to use our lives. And I think that that very much fits what we're all about. There are no guarantees. We enter the Pardes, and all we know is we're going to discover more of who we are, and we're going to have more to grapple with when we finish. So on this global day of Jewish learning, I want to encourage everybody, every day could be a global day of Jewish learning, because we could learn, something Torah-related every single day, and maybe this will be day one of a lifetime of global Jewish learning.